Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. We're going to take a look at Space Marine army building and look at how to build an army for 10th edition. We're going to put together a flexible list because the meta is ever changing, so chasing it is quite difficult. Going to make sure that there's a good combination of different unit types and try and future-proof the army to a certain extent. I'm going to keep the price at a reasonable price for starting a new army at 2,000 points, keeping it below £500. They tend to give you a good combination of a balanced army. The cheapest way to put together an army is to really focus on box sets because they give you the biggest bang for buck. You can get the most value out of these box sets with a good handful of models to go along with it. They generally give you quite a good combination of models that have a lot of synergy between each other. And they generally come with large amounts of discounts, some better than others, but you are going to get quite good value for your money. Box sets are pretty much easy to find on the GW website, but if you do go to third-party websites or your local gaming store, you will get them for much cheaper, usually 10 to 20% off. They'll also stock some box sets that are currently out of production, so they are the only way to get some box sets. Pretty much all the box sets, perhaps just one or two, such as the Black Templar one, aren't that cross-compatible, but every other one you should be able to use with any type of chapter you want to choose. When it comes to value for money, it's difficult to look past the Leviathan Boxset, which comes in at £150 and can be bought directly from Games Workshop. It's supplied with all new 10th edition miniatures, so you get a Captain in Terminator armour, Librarian in Terminator armour, Lieutenant with a combi weapon, which is really good, Apothecary Biologist, 5 Terminators, 5 Sternguard Veterans, 10 Infernus Marines, as well as a Ballistus Dreadnought. Not all of these are good enough in the current meta. None of them stand out as being poor. There's a couple that could do with a couple of points drops maybe to make them a little bit more accessible for a lot of the different chapters. But overall, it's a decent amount of models with a decent impact on the tabletop. This will come in for about 870 points, which is a good chunk of your army. But it does come with some bonus points because if you are just looking at keeping the Space Marines, you will get the rule book to go along with them, and then you can sell the Tyranid half usually for around £70, which knocks the price down to about £80, so you get a substantial amount of models and the rule book for quite a small amount of money. It also comes with the data cards for the units. Once you've picked up Leviathan, you probably want to look at a Combat Patrol to go along with it. The Blood Angels Combat Patrol has a lot of value in it and comes at £95. All the models inside of it are Primaris ones, so won't due for any updates in the near future. And it comes with a Librarian, 5 Intercessors, 5 Incursors that can be Infiltrators as well, 3 Aggressors, and an Impulsor Transport unit. This totals out at 300. Now what you get here is a transport that can carry the entire contents apart from the aggressors in the Impulsor, which is actually quite a good option at the moment. The Librarian can lead the the Intercessors, as well as it can go across to the Leviathan set and also lead the Infernus and the Sternguard, giving them that 4-up and vulnerable save and feel no pain in certain situations. The Biologist is a great combination with the aggressors. Is really strong in the meta at the moment. You're getting a lot of value for points there and a lot of damage output. So this is a good combination to go along with the Leviathan set because there's lots of synergy across them. If you really wanted to, you could go for another Combat Patrol. The Out of Production Dark Angels Combat Patrol is really nice with the Redemptor and the Inceptors. But it's sometimes useful just to pick up individual boxes because they give you a little bit more value on the tabletop and you don't have a lot of overlapping units. If you go for too many combat patrols, a lot of time you end up with too many intercessors, which isn't really what you want at this point. So we're currently looking at 1,250 points, which is quite a lot. We're over halfway towards our army. So first up, you want to take the Kill Team Scout Squad. They're only available in the Kill Team box at the moment. They might get a future release where they're separate, but you want to pick up the Scout Squad for £40. Now this can be run at 2 5-man units and is 130 points for both of them combined, or 65 points by themselves. The Scouts are really strong in the current meta and have recently gone up by 10 points, but they're still in a really nice position. They're quite a cheap action unit. You get a lot of movement from them because they can forward deploy and they do have the Scouts keyword, so they can move before the first battle round. They've also got an ability where you can remove them from the tabletop. So you can put them in positions where they can go and score secondaries and then be removed from the tabletop, pop up elsewhere and score some more secondaries. They're also really cheap, so you can use them just to occupy board space and sit on objectives. They're a really good unit in the current meta. Next up, we've got the Jump Pack Assault Intercessors. They're recent unit. They come at £35 for 5 models. You probably want to pick up 2 of these, and it's 85 points per unit of 5. They can also be taken in a unit of 10 for 170 points, but you probably want to run these as 2 separate units for the time being. Like the Scouts, they are another cheap unit for actions. They can fly and deep strike, so they've got a lot of movement within them, and they can move quite fast as well. They move much faster than the likes of the Scout Squad. They're more of a melee threat because they do come with chainswords, and you can give a power weapon or power fist to the Sergeant. They've also got a really nice mortal wound ability on the charge, so they've got a bit more damage output than the Scouts. Next up, we have the Gladiator Tank. It's £55 for 1 tank, and you probably want to pick up 2 of these, and they're around 160 points because there's a couple of different variants you can choose, but they all come in the one box set. So the box comes and contains the parts for all 3 variants, and you can also use it as an impulsor very easily just by taking off the top part of the chassis. It's quite an easy kit to magnetize because the turret is all push fit, so you can just pick it up and take off the parts that you want to change. And the only parts you really need to magnetize are the side sponsons, because you do have different side weapons depending on what variant you take. All 3 variants are quite good at the moment, 2 being more so than the other. Like I said, you can use it as an impulsor as well, so it's always handy as editions change to have transport capability in the army. So this brings our total to 1,870 points. So getting really close to that 2,000 points, but we probably want to edge over it anyway to give us a little bit of variation. And especially if there's any points changes in the future, we don't want to be below it. And if we do have increase in points on certain options, we want to have things on our hobby table and within our army collection already without having to have the need to go out and purchase models right away. So first up, there's the Company Heroes. This comes in at £40 and it's 95 points for the unit. However, there's a bit of a caveat for this because it has to include a captain, and he costs an additional 80 points. You can have a chapter master as well, and there are some named characters that can join it, but you have to have at least a captain or a chapter master. So for 80 points, it's not too bad, as the captain also comes in the box set, so you don't have to go and purchase him separately. They have a nice ability that they get -1 to the wound roll when they're being targeted, which is really good. And if the Ancient's still alive in the unit, they get +1 objective control. So they're going to be sitting on an objective with 10 objective control to begin with, which is quite a nice amount. Next, we have the Inceptor Squad. These come in at 35 points, and you get 3 models in a unit. You want to pick up 2 of these, and it's 130 points per unit of 3. You can take them in a unit of 3 or 6, so it'll be 260. Now, the Inceptors have always been notoriously good in the game because they can deep strike and they can fly, which are really powerful combinations. They do have a lot of firepower to come with their plasma guns as well, which are a bit better than your average plasma gun. They've recently had a points update, so they are more points now, so you don't get as much value for your money. But Inceptor Squads are always on this balancing edge where they're either really good or they're just a little bit too expensive. So they're at the part now where they're just okay. Another points increase would make them not that good and probably not unlikely to be taken. But at the moment, they're in a nice position. They've also got a really good ability where they can deep strike within 3 inches rather than the usual outside of 9 inches. That's outside of 3 inches, I should say. So you can drop onto objectives and potentially take these from being controlled by your opponent. And if you don't have enough OC to take them, then you do have a lot of firepower to remove from the objective whatever is there. The only caveat is that you can't charge if you drop within the 9 inches. So this totals us to 2,305 points, which is quite a nice amount to be at. If there are any fluctuations in the future, points going up or down, you're always going to be in the position where you can take a complete 2,000 point army without having to panic to go out and purchase other models. So the price for this is £560 if you're buying directly from Games Workshop. However, if you do go online or to your local gaming store, you usually get 10 to 20% off of all purchases. So you're really going to be coming in more at £448, which is around $570 or €523. I should point out that is American dollars. When it comes to competitive gaming, this isn't the most competitive list, but it's important to note that the meta is constantly changing because we do have the balance update and the point changes coming every 3 months. There's more codexes that are being released along the way, so it will forever change based on what's actually popular at the time. There's also something to bear in mind that to purchase a 2,000 point army, build it and paint it takes a lot of time, and by the time you have built and painted this, the meta will change. When building your army, you want to make sure that you've got plenty of balance there. You want different characters that give different buffs to different units. You want to make sure there's plenty of opportunities to get in melee range and engage in that aspect of the game. You want to have a certain amount of speed, because speed is king in the game. It allows you to score your points and dominate board control. You also want to be, with your Space Marines, quite durable as well. You don't want to just rely on the T4 bodies. You want to get your Gravis and your Terminator and your tanks in there to make it harder to take you off the tabletop, because you are a semi-elite army, and when you're reliant on the T4, all of a sudden you can start disappearing quite easily. You also want to make sure that you have enough damage dealing, whether it's in melee or range attacks on the board, so you can actually kill your opponents, especially against the tougher armies. And most importantly, you want to be able to have plenty of opportunities to score points. So it's not always just about killing the enemy. You want to make sure that you're scoring your secondary and your primary points so you can win the game. Also, when it comes to building an army, it does take a long time to build and paint, and you want some variation in what you're building. Otherwise, boredom will set in and you will suffer with hobby fatigue. So you want to make sure you've got a good combination of your infantry to your elite units with different variations of painting styles to be had within. And then you want your larger models, such as your tanks, or if you get like land speeders and such of those, just to break up the monotony of what you're doing. So that's it. The Space Marines Codex is very large, and there's lots of legend sheets available. There's a substantial amount of units you can buy. The majority of them do have a place on the tabletop. Not many of them are just terrible right out the gate. So if you do go and purchase other things, they are going to be more usable, especially if you're in a casual to competitive meta within your local gaming scene. Now, if you are traveling to go to major tournaments, there are some units that just aren't going to be as efficient as others. But as long as you're focusing on enjoying your game, improving your skills, focusing on your tactics and your strategies, what you put on the tabletop should largely be irrelevant, because it's all about having fun and improving how you play the game. If you want to support this channel, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to pop across over to Patreon, you can get free access to blogging and memes, and you can stay along for the more premium good stuff as well. Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos. I'll see you next time.